NASA hires religious experts to prepare humanity for aliens. Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect to the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachakadash. This was a video done by the brother Manak Zakba from South Carolina, and the title of the video is called NASA Hires Religious Experts to Prepare Humanity for Aliens. And in this video, he played a short clip where they're literally, in this video, you can see how the so-called elites, which the so-called elites and, you know, these different people that rule the government, they read the Holy Scriptures. They know the Holy Scriptures in and out. And a matter of fact, back in the early 1900s, the so-called elites hired biblical scholars to read and literally study the Holy Scriptures in and out. So they know the Holy Scriptures in and out. They know the Holy Scriptures in and out. Because they hired biblical scholars to read and to read the Holy Scriptures and to, you know, to go into the past history of events and to dig up. They hire certain architects to dig up artifacts to confirm the things that are written in the Holy Scriptures. That's why they're able to confirm about Noah's Ark. You can look that up. They have pictures of where they believe Noah's Ark landed. You know, they have, you know, digged up bones of past warriors. They have, you know, went into the ancient tombs of Egypt, saw the dark paintings of the Israelites and the Egyptians oppressing them. They looked into the hieroglyphics, if I'm saying that correctly, the hieroglyphics. So through hiring professional biblical scholars to go through intense studying and research, and through hiring different architects and hiring different scientists and different explorers to look into these things, they were able to confirm who the Israelites are and who they are. And they was also able to confirm who the so-called UFOs are and who's piloting those so-called UFOs. They were able to confirm who the world called Jesus is and who the Heavenly Father is. You see, they know all this stuff. They know about our customs. They know about our heritage. And when I say our, I speak of the Israelites, which are the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native Indians. And this was all done through researching our architects and scientists, researchers and explorers and so forth. And through this information which they have of the Holy Scriptures, they use that information to call themselves, to make themselves prepared for the day of when Yahushua returns. And that's why we see movies like Independence Day. We see video games like Halo. Look up Halo. There is in this game called Halo, there is a alien race known as the Covenant. Now come on, man. Why would they have a alien force, which the Spartans are fighting against, by the way, which the Spartans are no more than what, like a group of Edomites who are basically coming together in suits that they say can handle being on different planets, or can handle fighting in space, or being up in space. These different Spartan suits that these people fight in, which they use to fight against the Covenant, which is the alien force race, which they say invaded Earth and conquered Earth. So, basically Halo is supposed to be what? This game that takes place after this alien race called the Covenant took over Earth and defeated the human race. Why would they even have a game called Halo? And amongst the Covenant, which is this alien race, they have something known as the Elite. And trust me, I know, because when I was in the world, I used to play Halo, okay? And I know all about his story. And it's spiritual, because even when I was in the world, before I even knew about the truth, I always had this weird feeling that the Covenant were the good guys. Just like how I always had this feeling that, back in the world, I used to know them as aliens piloting UFOs. But even I had this feeling that the aliens were on our side. When I mean our, I mean on the side of humanity, and that they were coming back to take down the corrupt government. But of course, when I woke up to the truth, it all just started coming together. Now I knew that it wasn't aliens piloting UFOs, but the angels of the Lord who were piloting the chariots of Israel. The Lord started waking me up piece by piece as to, what these chariots were, and who were driving the chariots, and what they were coming back to do. Okay, but the elites in this game called Halo, which were the elites, where they were like some of the most powerful amongst this so-called alien race. Well, when I look at them, I realize that they kind of do resemble the camp heads, or the camp leaders of these different camps of GMS. They resemble the regional heads of these different camps. So I mean, definitely Halo is a game that you brothers should look into. And there's no coincidence that this alien race is called the Covenant. Now, why would they name an alien race the Covenant? And it's spiritual, because when Yahushua come back and he delivered his elect men, what is that going to signify? That's going to signify the second covenant. Because through the second covenant, the Lord's elect is going to conquer death. They're going to overcome death. Under the second covenant, we're not going to sin anymore. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm of the elect. I'm not calling myself a man of the Lord. I'm not calling myself a prophet or a servant of the Lord. I am speaking on behalf of the Lord's elect, whosoever they may be out there. That's who I'm speaking about. And as a whole, In the kingdom of heaven, the whole nation of Israel is going to have the law, statutes, and commandments embedded into their minds. But it's going to start with the elect when Yahushua delivers them from the nuclear destruction. Because when the Lord's elect gets beamed up on them chariots, the elect, they're going to go from their current corrupted bodies, which they're in now, to those perfect immortal bodies, where in those immortal bodies, the law, statutes, and commandments is going to be embedded in their mind. They're going to be made perfect. And that's what the second covenant is going to be about. The law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai being embedded into the minds of the Israelites, starting with the elect. Because the 2/3 of our nation is going to come back through the loins of the elect in the kingdom of heaven. Okay? And when the 2/3 of our people come back through the loins of the elect in the kingdom of heaven, they're going to come back perfect with the law, statutes, and commandments embedded in their mind. So the second covenant is all about Israel not sinning against the Lord anymore because of the law, statutes, and commandments being embedded into their mind, being made perfect and immortal, being able to live for all eternity. So we're literally going to be immortal in the kingdom of heaven. We're never going to die again. Because we're never going to sin again. So there's no coincidence that they call this alien race in this game called Halo the Covenant. And Halo is all about defeating the Covenant. Okay? I'm just going to come out and say it. It's all about defeating the Covenant. Which is what? Ultimately is all about stopping Yahushua and the angels. They don't want the Israelites to come in. They don't want the Israelites to be delivered from the nuclear destruction, because they don't want the Israelites to be under the second covenant, starting with the elect. And that's why Halo is all about defeating the covenant, defeating the alien race. They intend on stopping Yahushua and his angels. Why? So the so-called elites and the whole nation of Edom can get their birth, so they can get their birthright back. Which they're going to fail, because for one, ain't nobody defeating Yahushua or the angels. End of story. There ain't no number two. So this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 28, verse 3. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. Who's wiser than Daniel? These different so-called elites. Why are they wiser than Daniel? Because they hired biblical scholars, they hired professional researchers, they hired explorers, they hired professional architects or architects to dig up different artifacts and so forth. You know, they hired scientists, professional scientists, and they hired these people they hired all these different people to basically dig up information based around the Holy Scriptures. That's why they're wiser than Daniel, because they have been enlightened in the Holy Scriptures through their prognosticators, through their different scientists and researchers and biblical scholars. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. So the so-called elites, they know about the Holy Scriptures. They know about Yahweh's return. They know about the Lord's elect of the nation of Israel. And they also know about the 2/3 of the nation of Israel. They know about the heathens. They know about World War III. They know about World War III and the nuclear destruction. Why do you think they have bunkers in outer space? Why do you think they have something called DUMBs, which is an acronym for Deep Underground Military Bases? Because they know about the nuclear destruction. They've been preparing for all this shit starting in the early 1900s. That's why they been had movies about secret underground cities and secret underground bases and cities underwater, deep under the ocean. Why? Because they're preparing for the nuclear destruction. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 68, verse 17. The chariots of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. Now, the reason why I brought this out is because, well, NASA is hiring religious experts to prepare humanity for aliens. You see, they know that when Yahweh returns, he's not coming back alone. And he's not coming back as a man. Yahweh is coming back as an angelic force. Salakia. I had to spit. It's about that time of the year where, it's winter time and they spraying all kind of things in the air that weaken your immune system. So I had to clear my throat. So excuse me for that. Should have said something earlier before I did it. But as I was saying, they know that Yahweh is not coming back alone. Yahweh is coming back with the forces, with angelic forces with him. And a matter of fact, let's get this right here. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. It says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered." Who shall be delivered? The Lord's elect. To be joined back together with Yahweh, and to meet up with the other elect men that's going to already be on those chariots when Yahweh returns. Everyone that shall be found written in the book. What book? The book of life, spoken of in the book of Revelation. So Michael is coming back with an angelic force. I'll just go ahead and view this chapter. Second Esdras chapter 13. I'll just go ahead and start at 1. And it came to pass after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. Who's the thousands of heaven? That's the angels. So this alien invasion that NASA is talking about is really talking about Yahushua and the angels returning. And he turned his countenance to look, and all things trembled that were seen under him. Why is that? Because when Yahushua returns, he's coming back in a gigantic so-called UFO, or a gigantic spaceship. And when people see how great Yahushua's chariot is, people are going to piss and shit on themselves. They're going to spit on the ground. They're going to throw up. Okay, there's going to be a great tremble in that day. People are going to be terrified when they see millions upon millions of lights up in the sky, which are going to be the chariots of Israel. People are going to tremble. Even these different men that are in the Navy SEALs, the Marines, the U.S. military, they're all going to tremble. People that are a part of these different militaries. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men of number out of the four winds of heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Which also brings me here to Ronald Reagan's speech that he made on September 21st, 1987. It says, on September 21st, 1987, then U.S. President Ronald Reagan gave an address to the United Nations General Assembly. In an often quoted section of his speech, Reagan asked rhetorical questions and commented about the nations and cultures of the world uniting in common efforts to live in peace and avoid wars and bloodshed. And these were not his words, okay? He was told to say, he was, because, well, you got to remember, every president of the United States are no more than puppets. This man was no more than a puppet. And puppets do as they're said. Puppets say what they are told to say. They do what they are told to do. This man was a puppet, quoting what the so-called elites told him to say. And these are his words. Cannot swords be turned into plowshares? Where did he get that from? The Holy Scriptures. That, in the matter of fact, one scripture that comes to mind when I hear that is Joel 3 verse 9. And there's no coincidence that he quoted that scripture, because in that same chapter of Joel, the 3rd chapter, and the 9th verse on down, it also speaks about the mighty ones of the Lord, where it basically says, "Come, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord." Now that could be Joel 3 verse 11, or it could be Joel 3 verse 12, where Joel said, "Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord." Who are the mighty ones? That's the angels. Okay, that's the angels of the Lord. So in that very same verse, Joel the 3rd chapter, also prophesies of Yahushua's return, and prophesies of the angels. Joel, the third chapter, prophesies of the angels. So you can better understand. So yes, Joel, the third chapter, prophesies, and there's no coincidence that he also makes this quote of swords and plowshares, because what? Joel, the third chapter, is about what? Armageddon, which is prophesied of in Revelation. Because in Joel, the third chapter, it speaks about these different soldiers of these different nations gathering themselves together in the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is what? When you look up Jehoshaphat, the first thing that should come to your mind is what? Yehoshaphat. Okay, Yehoshaphat. And why is it called Yehoshaphat? Because that's where the Lord is going to judge these different nations and their militaries at. He's going to judge them over there in the Middle East. You see, these devils know what they are doing. They know what they're doing. You know, they can play stupid all they want, but they know exactly what they are doing. Okay? Mentioning swords and plowshares. Well, no, we're living in a time where these nations are going to beat their plowshares into swords. Okay? It says, can we and all nations not live in peace? In our obsession with antagonism of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity, Reagan said. And that, you know, that's no more than a New World Order statement. Okay? Which proves that all these presidents are the same, man. They're no more than puppets. This is a New World Order statement. Come on, man. It says, perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond, Reagan said. Come on, man, an outside universal threat? Where did he get that from? Now, let me remind you that this is a statement he made back in 1987. And I believe this was before the movie Independence Day came out. He made this statement before the movie Independence Day came out. Okay, now War of the Worlds, which is another movie about Yahweh's return. I can't remember what year that movie came out, but I believe it was in the 1980s when that movie came out. War of the Worlds. Matter of fact, it wouldn't hurt to just type this in real quick. Okay, War of the Worlds. Okay, yeah. This movie came out in 1953, which goes to show you that they already knew about Yahweh and the angels, like I said earlier in my video, in the early 1900s. So they've been preparing for Yahweh and his angels in the early 1900s. And when I say the early 1900s, I'm speaking way before 1953. They've been preparing for Yahweh and the angels. Okay? So it says, I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. Now we know that when he say alien threat, he's making a reference to Yahweh and the angels. Because when Yahweh returns, he's coming back from another dimension. Okay? He's going to crack them clouds, and he's coming back with the innumerable amount of angels. And the angels are coming back in what the world calls UFOs. Yahweh, when he returns, he's coming back in what the world calls UFOs. Can we prove this? Well, it's being proven right here in 2nd Esdras 13. But I beheld, and lo, he had engraved himself a great mountain. Now, when it says a great mountain, this is not talking about he's going to be standing on a literal mountain. No, it's talking about his chariot, his spaceship. Yahweh's spaceship is going to be so big that we're not going to be able to see the beginning or the end of it. Okay? Like, when you look up at the sky, you can't see the beginning or the end of it. That's what Yahweh's chariot is going to resemble. Yahweh's chariot is literally going to cover the whole sky. You ain't going to be able to see the beginning or the end of it. And I'm talking about the whole sky of the United States. You're not going to be able to see the beginning or the end of his chariot. That's how big his chariot is going to be. And people are going to be terrified and flew upon it. Okay? But I would have seen the region or place wear out, the hill was graven, and I could not. After this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. Now you're going to tell me that a mountain is going to cast out sparks and tempests? No. But what do they show you in these movies? In these different movies like Battle LA, War of the Worlds, the one that came out in 2005, as well as the one that came out in 1953. Also in this video game called Halo, they show you how these different spaceships were shooting laser beams we're shooting out laser beams. So Yahweh is going to be shooting laser. He's going to be shooting concentrated fire out of his spaceship, kind of like what they show you in that movie Independence Day. And a matter of fact, I remember when I was a child watching that movie. When I was a child watching the movie Independence Day, that was literally my most favorite part of that movie. Was when that big fucking spaceship shot out concentrated fire from the center of that spaceship and blew up the White House, and literally a big fucking explosion just wiped out everything in its vicinity. That was always my most favorite part of the movie. I believe I used to rewatch that whole movie over just to see that part. And when the Lord woke me up to the truth, it made sense to me why that was my most favorite part out of the whole movie. It made sense to me why that was my most favorite part out of the whole movie. It just made perfect sense. So Yahweh is going to be shooting pure concentrated fire on this country. And like how they show you in that movie War of the Worlds, when these angels are zapping people, and like Yahweh and like how they show you these different movies, when these angels are zapping people with concentrated laser beams and concentrated beams of fire, concentrated light beams of fire, these people are going to turn to dust. Except not even their clothes are going to be left behind. Okay? people's going to get zapped to powder. Their clothes is going to turn to powder. Their flesh is going to turn to powder. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So with that, I'm going to say, Shalom is on to the next one.